let me get started on providing a framework for people in your dream. So I'm going to talk about people in general. So there's a series of questions you want to ask yourself. Do I know the person, or do I not know the person? So if you say, do I know the person in my dream? Yes, I know the person. Then you have to say, is it about that person? And usually it's not about that person, but it could be about something that they represent. So then you've got to say, okay, well, where is this person in the context of my life? Are they a family member? We'll be talking a bit about family members a bit later. Or are they part of my church? Do they work with me? Do they go to school with my daughter? Or are they at a school with me? So this is what you say is like, so where does this person fit into the context of my life? And then the thing you can think about after that is, if it's a family member, then is it about that family member, or is it about something that's going on within my family? So we've got a very interesting dream to interpret a bit later, and I think that is probably the context of Monya's dream, which we will talk about later.
And it could be dreams about family members can be about the family member because they're important to you, you're close to them. Often you have a relational responsibility towards that person. So it's entirely possible, it's plausible really, that when you dream about a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, a brother-in-law, it could actually be about that person. But it might also be symbolic, and that's what you were saying about the puzzle pieces, that the rest of the context of the dream is going to point you towards whether it is this person or they're a metaphor for something, and sometimes they can even be both.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I can say I had a family member who's prophetic. So say, for example, if you have a father who is prophetic, then it could be a metaphor for the prophetic voice. I mean, the only thing I can relate to in that is I had a dream where Bob Jones, I don't know if everybody knows who Bob Jones is. He was a very, very anointed prophetic minister. I think in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
He gets going in the 70s and 80s.
70s, 80s, okay.
Yeah, in America.
He has some really amazing encounters with angels and God, and he has, and so he pitched up in my dream, and I was quite pleased that Bob Jones was in my dream, and he'd given me a prophetic word, and I actually can't even remember the prophetic word. Sometimes God will just seal the word inside of you, and you actually won't remember the word, but it's almost like something gets imparted in the dream, the prophetic message that person has gets sealed up inside of you. So I had a dream about Bob Jones, and so if I dream about Bob Jones, I know God's trying to say something to me prophetically. And I mean, Bob Jones was also involved with John Paul Jackson, and he was quite involved with
Mike Bickle.
And Mike Bickle does a lot on The Bride, and so it was a really interesting dream. So in my dream, Bob Jones then represented a prophetic message God was trying to give me. So the other thing you can ask yourself is, what is this person to me? If it's a friend, then what do they represent as my friend? What do they mean to me as a friend? Are they a very helpful friend? So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on
different? Whenever you see somebody in a dream, you're often thinking, as a person, say a friend, which is what we're talking about. You see them in a certain way. You have a certain relationship with them. As a guy, I'll have friends who I go on adventures with. Who I do physical adventures with. There'd be other friends who I'd be much more likely to go for a walk and talk to. So I'd have friends who are more confidants, and so you're thinking about, well, what's the kind of the fundamental nature of our relationship? What does this person sort of symbolize for me? What do we contribute to each other's lives? And that can help to key you into what it might be representing in the dream.
So then also, one of the other things that's quite interesting is the meaning of their name, and so don't go crazy about this. Just ask the Holy Spirit, look, is this kind of where you're leading me? Because a lot of people have gone like, oh, what's their name mean? And then but it can be important. looking up a name. So the tip is to go onto Google and look up the name John, name, meaning, and then to find the inherent meaning of the name, like the root of it and where it comes from, and the inherent meaning, not the spiritual meaning, because a lot of these online groups or these online pages want to give you, oh, this is the spiritual meaning of this person's name, but that's not what you want to look at. So then so if we've gone through if you know the person, and then what if you don't know the person in your dream but you know of the person, so it's a real person. So for example, I had a several series of dreams after I think I became British, and even after that, because I've taken on British citizenship, even though I'm South African, the Queen. So I would dream quite a lot about the Queen, and I had a dream once where I was looking after the Queen's budgies, and they were all flying around the kitchen in front of a big window, and they were all sitting on the curtain rail. There were no curtains, it's just this huge window looking out, and budgies sitting on top of the curtain. And I was like, the Queen? I have no idea what on earth she could signify. Do you have any ideas of what the Queen could signify in that?
The Queen is a bit like, it depends on what country you're living in, right? Because it's to do with the structure of authority within that country. And in the UK, the Queen typically would invite, after we have a general election here, the Queen is the one who invites the leader of the party that wins the election to form a government. So in France, it's similar, and in Europe, some other European countries, the president asks the prime minister to form a government. So here in the UK, the Queen is almost like a God as father role, which is where authority is derived from. It's the source of authority, and the prime minister then is a bit more like the operational side of it. So you take that authority and then you run the country. The prime minister runs the country with it. So that's more like Jesus, you know. And you even see, when you see sort of the angel of the Lord appear in the Old Testament, that's often thought of as being Jesus's appearance in the Old Testament, like in the burning bush. That's one of the classics. So Jesus kind of does the more operational side of the Father's will, and that's what he talks about. And he talks about the Father as being he who no man has seen his form, so nobody's seen the form of the Father. So it's a kind of a mirror of those two relationships when you're dreaming about the Queen and the Prime Minister.
So obviously it was something to do with looking after God's spiritual issues, budgies, birds.
Birds of the air, they fly in the air, which is to do with the spirit, but it's a spiritual thing, like a more prophetic thing, rather than a kind of a practical spiritual thing, like a sort of a pastoral thing, which might be more involved with water.
So the Queen wasn't the Queen in that sense. So that's definitely one of the things, is like, what does this person represent?
Yeah. And how do they function within society, within family, within this like the wider network of where they exist?